All right, guys. So tonight we have a kitten cat. So there's a cat come running across here. Well, that's the new kitten. You may get to meet it. The kitten, so up and down, full of energy. And we're going to talk about the Squire SAL 40. I'm not actually going to pick it, and I'm going to show you why. Um, so our one of our lock suppliers here had these on special where you can buy four for basically 300 Rand, which is about $15. Got three of them. I gave one to a mate, and he in return gave me a 6-pin rock. I've got no idea what this is, and anyway, so it's nice to have someone to swap locks with. And I thought, what the hell, for that kind of money, let's order it and see what we've got. And just thinking it was like, let's see, I had no expectations on it at all whatsoever. And I've got to tell you, when it comes to comfort locks, like, okay, so I'm blue belt, but I'm still no good with American 1100s. The serrated pins get me, but these Avis 7240, this is a HB 40 guttable and all that, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with. Lovely, lovely feedback, and it's very good engineering. We'll talk about tolerances in a second or so very quickly, but these are gorgeous locks. Interestingly enough, that one has a keyway the other way around, but I'm actually going to do a whole video on that. And but this video is not about the Avis, but it also involves the American and the Avis. So the Squire now, I've seen a lot of lever lock padlocks, and Squire does lever lock padlocks, and it's not a well-known brand here in South Africa. So I said to the guy, well, why are they so cheap? And he said, no, it's like they're not selling. People don't know them. Okay, I've got to tell you, guttable locks here are not a thing, and serviceable locks are not a thing. So to be able to get these kind of guttable locks is really, I'm quite lucky, and the pricing is very good. So I ended up with these, and when I tried to pick it, the first thing I noticed about it was that turning the core, when you look at the lock itself, the mechanism, this is very similar to the 1100. Okay, so the mechanism, it will turn quite significantly, and then you've got to pull it. So unlike the American 1100, that will give you just a little bit of turn, and then you just keep picking because you don't know that you've actually picked it. This will give you a significant display that yes, picked. Give it a turn and it pops open. So that really is one of the major differences between it. But again, I noticed that it was very, very hard. You've got to have really light tension because of the tolerances on this. Really light, because the minute you get a little bit too much heavy tension, you struggle to move the pins. So as you can see, my hook from the Genesis set actually has a bit of a bend in it, and it's a bit worse for wear. That really is just a Salox, because it's not a hook. It's not a hook I use often. I prefer the Reaper set. And anyway, I did get an open with it. I saw Lockdown Picker said, posted a photo of this easy pickings. Yes, it's easy, and no, it's not easy. It's easy if you're used to the American 1100, in that you do need to use a lot lighter tension than you're going to use on the Avis. And the reason for that on this, the reason for needing a lot lighter tension, oh dear, the kitten has, or something has caused these springs to go all over the show. But let's just look at the pinning that goes on it. First off, the springs. The springs are a lot longer, and they're a lot stiffer than the American 1105. So if I can just find them and put them together. This is off an American, this one here, and this is from the Squire. So there is quite a significant difference in length. The top one is the Squire, the bottom one is the American, and it's also a lot stiffer. So that's a reason why I've got this particular one gutted. Now, the pins are the same width, as the American. And what you're getting in the lock, I've only opened one. If I can get this up and get a little bit of focus, it's got two standard driver pins and three spool pins. The key pins are all standard. This is one over here on the end. Here comes the cat. Do-do-do-doom. That's your serrated pin from the American, serrated key pin. And that is a different spool pin, and that's your American 1100 spool pin. So there you can see there are some differences. It has a very long, quite deep spool. So, sometimes when you're picking away, you actually end up on the warding, and you're picking up a warding, and it feels like there's counter rotation, and it's not. You're turning the warding, so you're going to get quite a bit of counter rotation out of these very long spools. The other difference is the length. So that's the length of the American 1100 key pin. That's the length of the Squire, not key pin, driver pin. Sorry, that's the length of the Squire one. So American and Squire, and that's American serrated. That's off a BBL. You can see how short that spool is compared to that. I mean, the spool actual length is basically the length of that driver pin. So this is what you've got. I've not seen serrated pins. Only one I've gutted, so it's two standard, three spools, and I just pulled it apart, so I don't even know what order it went in. But that's besides the point. Now there's a lot of similarities between the locks. Here's an American 1100 core, and this is the core from this lock. And you can actually put an American 1100 in here, and I have. Um, that will go in and it will work. So you will have the same effect where there's a large amount of turn once you've got the open. And so, if you have access to just the American 1100 cores and you got these, it is quite nice and interchangeable. What I am going to do, and the reason why I've got it gutted, is because I've got the opening. It's There's nothing really particularly difficult about it. Um, the only thing is, I have found that, of course, you want to use a deeper hook. There goes our neighbour's alarm, which is quite common. So I did get an open on a Genesis, but before I do anything, I like to run a. I like to just, without anything in here, let's try and get some focus. I like to run and see what a lock pick is doing in the lock. Is it going to catch on the wardings? Is it not? So that's 20 thousandths. This is generally my go-to, is the Reaper number 5. I do enjoy this pick very much, especially for the Abus. So I can make sure that this is 20 thousandths, and then I've got a couple of multi-picks. I've got the rounded tip and the sharp tip, both deep hooks, and these are in 0.6 mil. And you can successfully run them through here. So if we drop in our key pins into the lock, that's the one thing I do. So just while I'm doing this, the reason why I've got it gutted is that I do want to swap out the springs. So because these springs are longer and harder, you do have to put quite a bit more pressure um, on the hook than you would on your pick than you would normally have to do. And what I'm basically doing here is just making what is essentially a relatively easy pick, slightly easier, but very much like the Abus 7240. You don't want to lock that super easy because you're going to get bored with it, but you also do want to work with it. You want to have to work for it a little bit. And that's what I'm hoping this will give me. I mean, you are going to get the open. You're going to get it. You just got to work for it. And I really do want to see how much interchangeability there is The reason why I'm using a deep hook is now if I hold the back of it shut and I've got the key pins in, let's just try and get this into focus. I like to run the hook and start from the back. And when I'm lifting the back key pin, I want to see if I've got an overset on the front. So I'm going to run it through and make sure I've got the right hook for the job. Now, there's another reason why I want to use a lighter spring, and that is that. So let's use also a favorite, my sharper hook in 6 mil, a 0.6 mil, and let's just see if I can with ease get it through there. If I'm going to be struggling to get it into the back, all the way to the back, that's not the hook, that's not the pick for this lock. But so far I can come right. It might be a bit uncomfortable with 0.5 mil or 0.6 mil. There is that. Now, I have found that the one thing with your very strong springs, and their longer length. Now, if you look at the Bible of this versus the Bible on an American 1100, it's the same width, right, or the same depth of the Bible is the same. It's actually an identical length, and you've got a driver pin that is double the size and a spring that's longer. So you got a lot of compression in there. What I've wanted to do is progressively pin up an 1100 using standard key pins, so I can learn the serrated pins and yes, jiggle tests and everything. But I don't know. For me, it's I'm just struggling with them, and it's something that requires practice. I have got opens on all of them. I have got different cores. I've got different bittings, everything, and that. The another thing to remember is the tolerances on these are very high. Now, a high tolerance means that there's a lot of wiggle room in there, so that wiggles quite a lot. A lower tolerance means there's a lower error for in the engineering for there's a lower amount of movement. So you don't want the perfect fit because then it actually isn't going to slide up and down. You're going to get a hydraulic piston effect. But you also don't want too much flopping around because, I mean, these really badly made cheap locks flop around and you end up with a lock that's very, very difficult to pick. So I think the tolerances on this are quite high. So you do need very light tension because as that core rotates a bit, it's then harder to get the next one in and the next one, and so it goes. And so it's going to rotate a hell of a lot more, and you're going to be pushing a hell of a bit harder. So you need very light tension, feather light again, like your Master Lotto, like your American. With your Abus, you've got a very you're using varying tension all the time. So I think this is a good step for me. Now, I'm not saying it's the same for everyone, to move from that, the Abus 7240, up to the American. And I don't mean being able to memorize a key and pick for that key. I mean being able to pick them without key, no matter how extreme the bitting is, by learning the lock itself and the lock mechanism. So I do hope it is a step up. I do think it is a lot more cost effective to be looking at the Squires. I think you're basically getting a very cheap American 1100 on this. There are two issues with in your reassembly when you are, and I'm wondering if it's not maybe just the whole spring setup. Is that with your assembly when you're trying to get your this gap here over here, let's pop that in. There's quite a big jump between the plug follower in there, right? And your driver pins tend to shoot up in there. And then you've got a bit of a nightmare. So you sort of got to angle it and really push them down one by one and get them in to reassemble. And I'm wondering, I will let you know, and just ask any questions in the comments. I've got these locks. A lot of guys have asked about them, and I said I don't know what's inside. I haven't opened it, but here they are. So that's the one thing, is your reassembly and gutting is not easy. The other thing is the circlip isn't of great quality, and actually even using a gut wrench, I managed to bend one. So I do have a whole box of 1100 cores and pins and spares and everything in here. There you go. There's an idea, guys. Use a pull box. They're very cheap from the pharmacy, to keep all your spare key pins and driver pins in nice in order, and that'll help. And that can go in your bag. So yeah, that's the only thing. Your reassembly with that. The quality of a circlip. So I just used another circlip, a spare circlip from an 1100, and I think the spring strength is quite high. And other than that, I think it's going to. So I'm going to get it reassembled, and I think it's going to be quite a good comfort slash training lock. And you can actually start keying, because I mean, 300 Rand or $15 for 4 locks. I can just buy another set and another set, gut them, and then they the same length as the American 1105 key pins. So I can at least put standard key pins in. I don't think I would put. Well, I'm going to see how this works, because the Bible is the same length. And if it works nicely, you can actually, put standard pins in your 1100 core and start learning this array. You know what I mean? So you're not just progressively pinning from the back to the front, you also progressively pinning away from standard to spools to serrated. So to really learn the lock nicely and learn how to work with the tolerances, I think that's the way forward. So yeah, that's what you're getting on the Squire SAL 40. It's American body. It's a aluminium body, and it's basically a cheap American 1100 that's a lot easier to pick. And just be light on your tension, and work with the heavy springs unless you gut it and put in lighter springs. And yeah, so let me know how you get on with your, if you've got them. I've seen a couple of guys have gotten them, and I think I quite enjoy them. I like the colors, as you know. I like to now, like with the Abus, collect all the colors, and the same with the Americans, collect the colors, make sure I've got the key pins and everything. And so, yeah, guys, give it a go. Let me know what you think. I think for that kind of money that you're paying for it, and if you want to progress onto an 1100, and I think it's a good step. It's so tempting for me to go the dimple route and Distainer and everything and spend all the money, but I'm not really, really, really that good with the locks I have got. If you look, this is just some of them, and in here I've got my Master Lottos, I've got Abus Lotto. They've all been picked, but they haven't been picked to a plan. And if you're not picking to a plan, then you're not really learning. And for me, it's more about really learning. So I just decided to put everything else on hold and work my way up, um, regardless of belt ranking, until I know and understand the locks and everything that I have got. Using these techniques and getting through it and learning to jiggle test each certain different one and the different pins, and let's get really into depth on it. So I'm going to reassemble this. I'm not going to do it on video because it's going to take some time, and give it another whirl. So I have got it at the open, and I think I might change the color to red because just something different. And let's see, as we say. Guys, thanks for watching. If you found this video useful, please do like and subscribe and pop a comment. It's always nice to chat to the guys, and yep, chat to you soon.